distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ann Thu Do. I am the External Vice President of the Vietnamese Women's Association in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. We are honored and we really appreciate all of you to take the time to come to our event. So before we start the program, I'd like to go over some quick housekeeping. First of all, the bathroom is on the left side. So that's the bathroom. And then I know that a lot of people has a problem with the parking. And then there's a parking in the back of the store, like by the Goodwill store. So you can park over there because there are plenty of parking. So overall, the program will start about an hour. So basically, we will have, first of all, we will start the program now with the Pledge of Allegiance. It will be read by Daniel Doe. So please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Daniel. Next is the national anthem. The Republic of Vietnam anthems.
Vì tương lai quốc dân cùng sống phá với dân, làm sao cho nước sông từ nay luôn vững bền, cho cây khơi tiếng nhau, cùng lửa cây mau là cây mau, ngài trong nước biển phải cần dậy, người con như nước vững bền đồng chí, cùng trang quyết chiến đấu làm cho đó.
Following is a minute of silence to remember our fallen heroes, both American and Vietnamese, who have given their lives for the cause of freedom in Vietnam and elsewhere. This is also in remembrance of those who sacrificed their lives for freedom, democracy, and human rights in Vietnam. The minute of silence starts. conclude our open ceremony. Please have a seat. Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce the President of the Vietnamese Women's Association in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, Mrs. Huỳnh Trúc Nương.
Wow!
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests, friends and neighbors, we are honored to welcome you to our Women Association meet and greet to support Mr. Corey Stewart, the Chairman at Large of the Prince William County Board of Supervisors, and the nominee for Virginia U.S. Senate candidate. We support Corey and ask that you'll do the same. We also like to introduce to you our newly elected President of the Vietnamese American Association of Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., Mr. Bobby Lee. A very dedicated, energetic young man who will bring fresh air to the community. We have a few more words to share with you about Mr. Corey Stewart, the Chairman at Large. He has pledged to fight against the serious violation of human rights from the Communist Vietnamese government, as well as stopping the Chinese aggression into Vietnamese territory. And he has a strong pro-life stance of fighting for the right to protect life for the innocent unborn babies in the womb. And for those things, we would like you to support Mr. Corey Stewart. Thank you.
Just a quick note, like the two reasons that the President just mentioned to you is the reason that the Vietnamese Women's Association of the DC metro area support Chairman Stewart. Like those are two reasons: the human rights in Vietnam and also the human rights of the unborn babies. So these are the two reasons why we support Mr. Corey. So next, I would like to introduce Mr. Tim Hannigan. He is the chairman of the Fairfax County Republican Committee.
Good afternoon. It's my honor and privilege to introduce our guest speaker today, Senator Dick Black, sitting right here. Senator Black is a retired Marine or retired military colonel. He's currently serving as the senator from the 13th District in Virginia. He's been a state senator for about 5 years, a little over 5 years, and before that he was a delegate in the House of Delegates for 8 years. He is one of the longest serving, or is one of the most conservative delegates in the General Assembly, or any of the state senators down there. As I mentioned to you earlier, he was part of the military. He was a retired colonel. He started out in Marines, where he was an enlisted Marine, and he was so good at that, they made him an officer. He became a pilot to 269 helicopter missions in Vietnam. Crash landed when machine gun fire hit his helicopter, so he had that experience. Above and beyond that, he served a ground tour, serving with the 1st Marines, where he had his radio man shot, and he himself was wounded and received a Purple Heart for that activity. So he's had quite an experience in the military. He also, when he served in the Pentagon, supported the Senate Armed Services Committee, wrote executive orders for the President, and testified before Congress. So he's had an extraordinary experience. He's married, For 50 years, that's 50, 3 children, and 16 grandchildren. I think it's safe to say he's led an active life. One quick anecdote. Senator Black, as I mentioned, served in Vietnam. He was a longer-term supporter of the Republic of Vietnam and is dedicated to the freedom of the South Vietnamese. And the one quick anecdote is when he was out just before the start of the battle, he and his radio man spotted a grandmother who happened to be in the jungle in the vicinity where an attack was going to take place. And on his own, with his radio man, they dashed out there, took custody of the woman, essentially saved her, brought her off the battlefield, and so she was able to survive. And so that's the type of selfless person that our state senator, Dick Black, is, and I'd like to introduce him and ask him to come.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, anytime that I am with a group of my brothers and my sisters from the Republic of Vietnam, the Free Republic of Vietnam, it is a great honor because I am familiar, personally familiar with the courage of the Vietnamese in battle, with their determination to defend freedom to the very end. And so I'm always deeply honored to be with you. I'm very pleased to be here with my friend. Very pleased to be here to speak in favor of my friend Corey Stewart, who is a tremendous candidate for Senate. Someone who will make you proud, and his opponent, I unfortunately, is someone who has been a backgrounder and who has not supported the things that I think that you would favor. I wanted to mention something because 5 years ago I passed legislation, and I have copies of it here, both in Vietnamese and in English. And what we did is we got together a group of 12 very senior Vietnamese officials, people who had served in the government, in the police, in the military during the Vietnam War. And what I wanted to do, there has been so much falsehood about, especially about the South Vietnamese, that I wanted to encompass the actual true history of what happened. And so I have it in both English and in Vietnamese, and I would very much take it as a personal privilege if each of you would pick up one of these as you go. And if you have contacts in Vietnam, if you would scan it into your computer and email that to them, because I have no doubt that in Vietnam, and this is what it looks like, it's over on the table. In Vietnam today, in the schools, they probably teach things about the children's grandfathers that are very false. And the children do not know of the valor and the heroism. Because Vietnam won. The United States pulled out, Nixon provided supplies and so forth. He was very loyal to Vietnam. Because of his devotion to Vietnam, he won re-election in 49 out of 50 states, something that will probably never happen again. And then he was thrown out because there were people who were determined that South Vietnam must not survive, because if South Vietnam survived, their political careers were gone. So what I have done is I have captured in this document the heroism, the valor, the courage, the self-sacrifice of the South Vietnamese soldiers who fought side by side with me, often in the jungles, and I personally saw their courage. I had a South Vietnamese soldier shot no farther from us. And they stood, they were courageous, they were valiant. So that's my lecture on Vietnam, and I would appreciate if you would disseminate this information. The Virginia General Assembly enacted this and passed this true history of Vietnam, talking about the fact that 2 million Vietnamese fled, 1 million were placed in concentration camps, and 1/3 of those died in these what we called re-education camps. They were not re-education anything. They were concentration camps. They were as vicious and as bitter as anything that the Nazis imposed on the Jews in Germany. And people need to understand, and the young people need to understand. So I apologize for taking time for that, but I will tell you that I have a deep love for Vietnam and for all of you here. When I was over there as a pilot, I would visit a small village near Chu Lai, and there was a very nice girl. Her name was Ann Mai. And Ann Mai, she was a friend. She was a very nice, very decent girl, just a friend, but we would talk. I would have a soft drink in her shop. And then I told her one day, I said, I have to go to Da Nang. There's bitter fighting up there, and I've been asked to fight on the ground as a forward air controller with the infantry. And for the first time, she walked me back to the barbed wire fence at the Marine base, and the last words that she spoke, she said, "You go, I die." And those words are in my heart today. When Saigon fell, I had nightmares night after night about her. And I know that many of you had the same feelings. I can look out and I know so many of you had these terrible dreams that came into your mind. So I love the free Republic of Vietnam, and I hope that freedom will return there one day. But I simply want to close that line of talking by telling you that there were very many Democrats who were committed to the defeat of South Vietnam. Their careers depended on it. They had predicted it. And President Nixon had ensured that it would not happen. And the Vietnamese, they defeated North Vietnam in the Easter Offensive, and they did it almost entirely on their own. So it was clear that the war was won. And so they ousted Nixon, and then from there, the Democrats cut off all of the ammunition, the fuel, the supplies, the food, everything, and they left the Vietnamese helpless. I talked with a man who was a tank commander. He said they were rationed to where their tanks could go out with 1 shell and 5 gallons of fuel. Nothing. They couldn't even come back after they fired 1 shell. So they were deliberately defeated after they had won the victory in the war to defend the freedom of the South. Now, who did it? It was the people, the core and the heart and the soul of the Democratic Party that did it. And so we now have an election between a Democrat and a Republican. Now, I know Corey Stewart. Corey Stewart is a man of strength, of boldness, and loyalty. And he will defend the interests of the Vietnamese people to the very best of his ability, and he will be loyal to you. He will not forget you as other people have forgotten you. Corey Stewart is one of the most courageous political figures in the state of Virginia. You find so many people who, they know something is going wrong, they stay silent. It's easy to stay silent. When something is wrong, when some injustice has occurred, Corey Stewart stands up and he speaks out. And I will tell you, this country, you know, we talked about being the home of the brave and the land of the free. And as we become less brave, we become less free. Amen. And this is happening. We need people who have courage, who have strength.
Right. Right.
Corey Stewart is that man. And if Corey Stewart is in the Senate, he will be the man who will take to the floor and who will speak out for the Vietnamese and who will speak out for people like you who have stood for freedom and who have been suppressed by evil forces. And so I give my full endorsement to Corey Stewart. I encourage everyone to get your friends out and to vote for him. He is my friend. I have great respect for him. Corey Stewart, I introduce you to the man who is the leader.
Thanks a lot, Dick. That was better than my speech. Well, what a great crowd here today. And I got to tell you, I'm very, very proud. I'm very, very proud to be here with the Vietnamese American Women's Association. And I want to thank, first of all, let's give a big round of applause to Senator Dick Black. Thank you very much. Events, especially one of this size, it takes a lot of work and a lot of organization. For that, we need to thank Matt Truong and Antudo. Please give them a round of applause. So, who wants some really good news? Some really good news? Okay, latest poll. It's the first likely voters poll. We've narrowed the gap. We're within 5 points of defeating Tim Kaine. And you know why we're going to defeat Tim Kaine? Because he's a lousy senator. That's why. He's a lousy senator. Now, you could ask a Democrat, you could ask an independent voter, you can ask anybody, these are people who know him. In fact, you can ask Tim Kaine this question. Hey, Tim, what have you done for the past 6 years? You know what he's going to do? He's going to scratch his head. He's done absolutely nothing. In fact, with Tim Kaine, is the only thing, Virginia would have been better off without a United States Senator than having Tim Kaine there. You know why? You know why? Because Tim Kaine votes against President Trump automatically. No matter what it is that President Trump proposes, even if it's good for Virginia, Tim Kaine automatically votes no. When President Trump proposed a pay raise for our brave men and women in our military, Tim Kaine voted no. When President Trump proposed a modest housing increase for the men and women in our military, especially up here in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads, where there's a high cost of living, Tim Kaine voted no. When President Trump proposed to decrease our taxes, successfully I might add, Tim Kaine voted no. And when President Trump proposed to put Brett Kavanaugh as the next United States Supreme Court Justice, a man who is going to be a great jurist, a great judge, and even the liberals have said that Brett Kavanaugh is an eminently qualified for the United States Supreme Court. Tim Kaine has said he's voting no. So you know what we have to do? When Tim Kaine comes up for re-election on November 6th, you vote no to Tim Kaine and yes to all of us. Before I begin, now my wife Maria couldn't be here. She's with my goddaughter celebrating her 10th birthday. But I am very, very proud. My oldest son, by the way, is off at college, his first year of college, my son Isaac. But my son Luke is here, and he doesn't normally come to all my events. But he's back there, my son Luke, right there. I'm very, very proud. As some of you might know, Bree and I, we met in East Asia. We met in Japan. I was teaching English. And I saw this beautiful blonde Swedish woman, and I'm like, wow. You know, so that's, we've been married now since 1994 for 24 years. We got 2 kids. And one of the things I've got to do and I want to do when we restore a democratic regime, a democratic government to South Vietnam. That is something we must do. I'll take that back, folks. I said South Vietnam. We need to restore a democratic government for all of Vietnam. That's what we're doing. But I've been there. I've spent a lot of time, and the thing is, with all of you, you've been so great and supportive. Marie and I are very, very appreciative of that. I did want to introduce to you, we have some students who are staying with us. They're from China, and they're here with us today. They're going to be with us for the next year, and they've been an absolute delight to be in our home with us. And so Warren and Harry, why don't you all, the both of you stand up there. So we have a choice in this country. We chose in 2016 to look forward, not backward. We chose for a government in Washington. We chose for a president who is going to make America great again, and that's what we got with President Trump. Isn't that right? But he can't do it alone. President Trump cannot do it alone. He needs help. We are one vote away, folks, from securing and making sure we have a secure border on the border with Mexico, for making sure that we end the chaos in our immigration system. You know, it's not fair to those who wait for years, in some cases decades, to come into our country lawfully. And yet, we have millions of people streaming across the border from our southern border, and we don't know anything about them. We don't know if they're criminals. We don't know if they have terrorist past. We know nothing about it. And that is why when I'm the United States Senate, I will cast a tie-breaking vote, and we will build the wall on the southern border. Our immigration system must be built upon the foundation of merit, on meritocracy. If you want to come to America, we welcome you, but you must be law-abiding. You must work hard. You must be able to support yourself and your families. And when you come to America, you will make America great. You will help to make America great. That must be the foundation of our immigration system. And that is what I will support in the United States Senate. And when 2007, when we had a lot of crimes that were being committed by MS-13 and other illegal alien gangs, we put into place in Prince William County a very common sense policy. It's very simple. If you commit a crime, we check your immigration status. We don't care what race you are. We don't care what language you speak. We don't care about any of that. We care about one thing only. We check the immigration status, and if you've committed a crime, you're not released into the community. You don't commit more crimes against Americans. Instead of being released, and if you're a criminal, we send you back to your home country so you can never harm another United States citizen. You know, there's just a whole lot of people who think that if you're an immigrant to this country, if you're a proud American, if you immigrated into the United States, that somehow that you're for illegal immigration. That's simply not true. And one of the things that I noticed, and by the way, I was right up for a re-election right when we were putting this policy into place, and they said, Corey, Prince William County is 55% minority. How are you ever going to win? I said, because I know the people of Prince William County just like I know the people of Virginia. And you know what? Virginians and people in Fairfax and Prince William County, of all races, of all ethnicities, of all languages spoken, they believe in law and order. They believe in law and order. Isn't that right? We're going to make our families safe again. We're going to make our families safe again, and we are going to stand up for the human rights of people who are in Vietnam today. We're going to do that as well. One of the things that this president has done, I got to tell you, I love the fact that a lot of us here in this room, we supported President Trump, and you know something? This is a president. This is a president who has kept his promises and who's gotten things done. You may not like his Twitter. You may not like all the things he says. Actually, I like him on Twitter because he tweeted about me 3 times last week. But you can't argue with the results. The biggest tax cut since the 1980s. We're only 8 months into the Trump tax cut, into the Republican tax cut. By the way, Tim Kaine voted no on that tax cut. Wow. Tim Kaine voted no on that tax cut. 8 months, only 8 months into this tax cut. By the way, the tax cut that was passed in the early 1980s resulted in economic growth for 20 years. We're only 8 months into this tax cut, and already we have the lowest unemployment rate in 52 years. The lowest unemployment rate ever for African Americans and Hispanics. The lowest unemployment rate for women in over 65 years. Wage growth for blue-collar working Americans rising at the fastest clip in 22 years. And you know something? And here's the scary thought. If you re-elect Tim Kaine, if you send the Democrats to control the United States Senate or the United States House of Representatives, all of that goes away. Because those tax cuts are permanent right now. Those rate cuts will go through the roof. If you elect Tim Kaine, if you re-elect Tim Kaine, your taxes will go sky high. So my question is, are you ready to fire Tim Kaine? Yeah! And we're all going to do it. And let me tell you something, nobody is going to think, wow, Corey Stewart's too conservative. He's too pro-Trump, yada, yada, yada. Well, you know what? I am very conservative. And I do support President Trump because our economy is getting better. Things are improving in this country. And they're improving in Fairfax County, and they're improving in Loudoun County, and Arlington and Alexandria, and in Prince William County, and every other county across this state. The signs of economic growth. We're going to get it to continue, and that is why we are going to win Fairfax County on November 6th. The Democrats are under some delusion. I don't know what they're smoking. A lot of them do smoke a lot of different stuff. They're under some delusion that there's going to be a blue wave on November 6th. Not a chance. They're completely out of their minds. On November 6th, folks, together with all of you helping, and by the way, I need your support. I really need your checks. I need your hard-earned money because, you know, I can't run this campaign out with no money. So if you can help us out, I'd appreciate it. You can do it online as well at CoreyStewart.com. But together, working hard, all of us together working hard, we are going to take back America, we're going to take back Virginia, and yes, we're going to keep America great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chairman Stewart, for a really good speech. Like Mr. Stewart just said, his poll number is really good and going to the right direction. But nowadays, he really needs everybody's help, especially financially. So if you if you would like to help Chairman Stewart, please write the check to Stewart for Senate today. We would really appreciate it. And then there's some lady in green over there. is waiting for you. And then please again help Mr. Stewart financially, and also if you can volunteer anytime, any day, please sign up because if we would like to win this coming November 6th, we really full force come out and help Chairman Stewart and his campaign, and also the other candidate, the Republican candidate. So thank you. And next, before we will have a question and answer with Chairman Stewart for 15 minutes, I would like to ask one Vietnamese citizen. She would like to have one quick statement. And please, Mrs. Yến Ngọc Nguyễn, can you please come?
Because of the media, we lost our country in Vietnam. So be careful and don't listen too much to media, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Nguyen. I'm sorry because we ran out of time. So basically, Mrs. Nguyen just asked everybody, encourage everybody to come out and vote on November 6th to help President Trump, because he's being attacked everywhere in the media and the Democrat, the liberal, everywhere. So we really need everybody to come out to vote to help candidates like Chairman Stewart to get in and then help support President Trump's policy. So next, I would like to ask Mr. Stewart to come up here, and then we will have like a 15-minute question and answer. But to be able to have like many questions and for Mr. Stewart to answer, so when you ask questions, please limit it to 30 seconds, and then please don't make any statement, or we can do statement later when we have time. But now is like Mr. Stewart will answer any of your questions. Just make it short and simple. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Angela. Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. One of the things I support Mr. Trump on also Republican is like I stand up for the flag. I respect those who fight for freedom. We've been in the communism. We know that one of the ways they plan on the head, future by brainwash the students. So right now I see in the college, in the school, they start to immerse the socialism into the education. They try to brainwash the students. Can you do anything about that? I respect the freedom of speech, but I also would like to ask, they have to respect the difference. Right now they try by any means to avoid the conservative voice and not just different voice. So with you in the position, can you do anything to the school system, especially in Fairfax? You can have that. Thank you.
Yes. No, I think you're absolutely right. And the question is, what can we do about the socialism that's being brainwashed into our kids' heads in the school system and especially in our universities, right? And so, if you think about it, what makes this even worse is that this is being subsidized by our tax dollars, right? And it's time to end that. It's time to end that. The way we're going to end that is this, is that the United States Department of Education was started in the early 1970s to help various school districts and also with regard to higher ed. There's money started going into higher ed. And today, if you're an institution of higher learning, you're accredited by a partnering agency with a partnering organization through the United States Department of Education. Okay, so the problem with this is it's Washington, D.C. telling universities across this country what it takes to be accredited. We need to get rid of that system altogether. And there's something that was submitted by Senator Mike Lee. It's called the HERO Act. And what it would do is it would take the power of accreditation and remove it from the federal government, send it down to the state governments where the states can work together with chambers of commerce, with business associations, and in this way there's an actual connection between what the needs of the workforce are, what the needs of employers are, and what education our kids are getting. That's, right now there's a complete disconnect. There's absolutely no relationship between what the universities are teaching and what the needs of the workforce are. That needs to be fixed. And when we do this, we're going to be able to get rid of really stupid courses that are providing no benefit for all of our kids. And it's not just a matter of debt. Our kids are graduating with all this debt from these universities. Their minds are getting filled with a lot of really ludicrous liberal ideas. But it's also their time. And so what I've gotten in front of the universities, and I've said, look, and I looked at the students out there, and I said, if you get a degree in gender studies, you're not going to get a job when you get out of school. That's got to be fixed, and that is what we're going to do. We're going to stop subsidizing all of this liberal garbage that is being fed into our kids' heads by these but there's literally people that are really much more close to Marxism in our universities than there are close to having democratic ideas, democratic with a small d, so that's one thing we can do to fix it. But it is bad, and the thing is though, remember this though too, is that a lot of times when you're young and you're living at a university and somebody else is paying for it, it's very easy to be very liberal. But when you get out and you get that paycheck, and the government is taking more than 50% of your income in one way, shape, or the other, suddenly you become conservative. And that's going to happen to this generation too. It will. Yes, ma'am.
How do we answer friends or acquaintances when they use the word white supremacist about you?
Yeah, well, so this is just reminding them of this, and that is that the liberals have nothing to go on anymore. Nothing. And if you look at the liberal philosophy, it's always failed. And so, when President Trump was elected in 2016, of course, what did the liberals call him? They called him a racist. This is not new, they called Ronald Reagan a racist. They call any conservative a racist. And there's absolutely no foundation to it. So you need to just respond with the absolute truth. That this is a party, the Republican Party, President Trump, that we are for individual freedom. We are for freedom, we're for lower taxes, we're for a strong defense, we're for strong national security, we're for strong a border. I've been governing for the last 12 years the most diverse jurisdiction in all of Northern Virginia, the first minority jurisdiction. And I get a lot of votes from the Asian community, the Hispanic community, the African American community. I would never have been able to do that if I was any of those things that they called it. Yes, ma'am.
But I noticed that people who run for office, when they run, they are very with the people.
Yeah.
But once they're in office, then they need for re-election and all those things, they need money.
Yeah.
And therefore, pretty soon they give in to the money elites who are controlling us. I mean, I don't believe in this two parties. I believe that there is a money elite that is controlling all of us. And so, who wants to in office, not you in general, but in general, then they have to answer to those people like the Chamber of Commerce or Koch brothers on our conservative side or Soros on the other side. How can you keep yourself from that? When you pledge that you will not fall into that. Because I've seen, protesters, Rubio, sorry that I throw out names, but even they have to give in to the money.
Well, let me tell you.
Could you repeat the question?
The question is, how do you keep from having the money, the big money, influence you once you're elected? And because there are a lot of people.
Not influence.
Yes. Oh, yes, right. It's more than influence. It's like, so let me just say this. You know, I've been in office for 12 years, longer than that, almost 15, but I've been chairman of the board for 12 years. And you do have to raise money, there's no question about it, but you always have to make that distinction. Now the thing is, with me, you know how someone's going to act based upon how they've acted in the past. And, you know, at every single critical juncture in my political career, when I was faced with a very tough decision on a controversial issue, I always went with the people. Every single time. And that has meant, it has cost me, it has definitely cost me a lot of donors, it has cost me support from other politicians. And because it's so many politicians, you know, as soon as the slightest hint, this is what Senator Black just mentioned, the slightest hint of controversy and they run for the hills, they get scared, they won't stand up. I've always stood up. And on the issue of illegal immigration, in 2007, and I had a lot of money interests, and others were telling me you should back down, don't do it, etc. Well, we proceeded anyway. It was the right thing to do, and by the way, we've sent over for deportation more than 8,000 criminal illegal aliens so far under that policy. 8,000. So that's what I've done. But I do want to let you know this, and that is, I'm a human being. When you elect me to the United States Senate, I want you to keep my feet to the fire too. I want you to do that, because I need to hear. And I need to be reminded every single day about the people who sent me there to represent you. And I'm going to say just something about Tim Kaine right here. You know, he's one of the top 10 recipients of major money from outside of Virginia. Yeah. Senator Kaine is bankrolled by liberal Democrats in California and New York. And that is why many people, even up in the Senate staff call Tim Kaine New York's third senator. He does everything that Chuck Schumer asks him to do. He's a pawn of the far left liberals who finance his campaigns. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, thank you for answering my question. I'm only 12, so this is my first time actually being here. So with the ongoing popularity of socialism by, Ocasio-Cortez and other Democrats, what's your opinion on how to fight the ongoing popularity or surge of socialism in Congress? Yeah.
So, well, thank you. But by the way, that means in 6 years, you're going to be able to vote to re-elect me to the United States Senate, right? And it's a really good question. The question is how we're going to fight this creeping socialism in America. You know, it's about education. So many people in this room know what socialism leads to, what communism leads to. I know as well, because I was in Poland in 1990, right after the communist government fell. And all these young people, and by the way, if you speak to anybody who's from Eastern Europe or the former Soviet Union, and you're going to find a conservative. And you know why? Because they lived under socialism. They lived under communism. Talk to the people of Venezuela today. Look what has happened to a country in Venezuela, which is one of the wealthiest. It's got some of the biggest natural resource reserves in all of Latin America. And yet it is desperately poor today. Why? Because of socialism. Socialism leads to misery for people. And it's just a matter of, for these socialists, when they come up, what we have to really do is give them a one-way airline ticket down to Venezuela. Live under socialism and see how great it is. They're going to find out it's terrible. You're going to find out it's really terrible. When I was in Poland in 1990, the students said, when the communists came, when the socialists came to Poland, they told us that they were going to make us all equal. And they did. Equally poor and miserable. That's what socialism means. It's a matter of education. There's a lot of people who've never seen anything, they've never done anything. And they're on the streets and they're yelling about capitalism being bad and they're for socialism. They have no clue of what they're talking about. We just have to work on them one by one to open their eyes, because at the end of the day, the truth always wins. One more question, because the food is ready. I don't want to get in between you and the food. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello. Let me repeat that. That I believe that many of us here, like you, we do support President Trump zero tolerance against illegal aliens. I do too. However, I believe that that message somehow does not uniformly seeping through many parts of the immigrant community, either Vietnamese American community, Hispanics, or Middle East community, immigrant community. So and many part of the immigrant believe that conservatism is against immigrant, period. There is no illegal aliens in that sentence, in that message. So my question to you is there any strategy to make sure that we make clear distinction between, on the one side, legal immigrants who contribute a lot to the wealth of this country, and the other side, illegal aliens who came here as a burden for the country and create a lot of problems.
Okay. Well, this is, of course, the problem is that you have a very dishonest press. And you know, whether it's the newspaper or CNN or MSNBC, but they're all so much, and they always, what you said is absolutely true. They always mix up. When we talk about illegal immigrants, people who have broken the law and entering this country, and then, but what you have, of course, is that Republicans and you know, just average Americans support immigration. We know immigration is good for America, but it must be lawful. It must be lawful. And I do believe that most people do understand, and I've seen this in Prince William County, they understand. Even Hispanics, you would think, would be against what we've done to crack down on illegal immigration. They understand that immigration is good provided that it's lawful. We just have to keep working on that. We have to keep that message out there. We're not ever going to be able to control the CNN and MSNBC, but I think people are beginning to wake up. And now more than ever, people can communicate through social media. We don't rely so much on television anymore and the radio. We communicate through social media. But we have to keep that message very, very clear that we have nothing against legal immigration. Legal, lawful immigration is good for America. Illegal immigration is not. And we just have to keep repeating that message. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. I appreciate all of your time.
With the buffet line over there, and as a reminder, again, Chairman Stewart needs a lot of help, especially financially. So if you would be able, please give a check or cash. The check will able to Stewart for Senate. Right now, Mr. Stewart and then Mr. Dick Black is like available for media interviews. So.
can't eat flour. This is really good. Well, I can't eat. Yeah. Okay. This looks great.
Got a picture with her. Yeah, of course. Okay.
Chúc mừng Nguyễn Phước Lương, tôi thể mọi người trên Việt Nam và Hoa Kỳ